Welcome back to another Senior Bowl recap with Barnabas and Mike here. It's day 3 of the Senior Bowl. Honestly, it's a little bit more relaxed today. There were no 1v1s for the American team, the second team on the field. So no Lad McConkey clips coming out today, but a very nice relaxed day. Um, and so for today's show, we're gonna do just from the top down, who are our favorite guys this week? Our all practice squad, pretty much. Who had the best week, and we think you're gonna have that best draft capital coming out.
Not necessarily draft capital, but just people who raised their draft capital today. I'll say.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
I only had one quarterback that I thought really moved the needle on his draft capital. I do think that was Michael Pratt. Michael Pratt had a very good day one. Day two, we kind of went over the other day, was a little bit iffy. And then today, again, it was fine. They did a lot of 11v11s, had some good ball placement type stuff, had stepped into the pocket in the face of pressure. I like that too. But certainly never looked lost. Some of those QBs today looked very lost on the reads. So Michael Pratt's my stock because he's just not talked about a lot. I know as a company we're all fans of him, but I do think Michael Pratt maybe a single round higher than probably what it was going into this week.
Yeah, I'll say he showed the most confidence as a player. I think he might have been a little bit camera shy because he kept running straight off the field when we.
Dude, that dude was sprinting. I'm trying to talk to him, and he's like, we're all on the bleachers, and he sprinted away. You can't talk to him.
He said, "Bye, Felicia." So I agree. I don't really have anyone else as well. I think a couple quarterbacks might have gotten some bad advice from folks, and so I think Pratt showed the most poise and confidence out there, and he actually showed a improved mechanic in that he was shortening up his stride a little bit, which led to a little bit better hip rotation and more power on those balls. And so there was one play where he had like a really great corner front pylon throw to Jamari Thrash, who made a good aerial grab. And, and that was a spot where only he could get it and not the defender couldn't reach it. And so it was a good throw. And so I think overall this week, he showed that while he's a project, and I don't think anyone's arguing that he's not a project, I think there's a good probability that, a team that knows that they have to move on to a new quarterback soon might look at someone like Michael Pratt to be the heir apparent for the next couple of years.
I do want to make one little special note, like an honorable mention here. I do want to mention Spencer Rattler, but only from the context of all of us from C2C here. We followed Spencer Rattler's career for a long time, so we are kind of worried about the interview portions and the whole character stuff that may or may not be there. Spencer Rattler's kind of hyping people up, looked like a leader out there. Certainly was having fun. Seemed to be getting along with the guys a lot too. Guy had a bad throw, comes off, they're dapping up and doing dance moves together. I think Spencer Rattler looked like a leader out there. And as far as locker room stuff, I know we're kind of worried about that. I think just from what I saw on the field, a little bit more positive about it. Looked like a great character from a distance.
And from all accounts, he was a pretty decent interview as well. Not like a phenomenal one, but for those of us who were worried about his interview portion, he actually did okay. I'll also say I think Carter Bradley played better than we thought he would. He didn't look outclassed there, and that in itself is enough for him. And so I'd say it was a good week for him too.
Yeah. Running back group though. The very clear biggest riser was Ray Davis. Got to talk to his dad. Love talking to his dad. I didn't as a pass catcher, he's getting one-handed grabs out there. Thought that was great. Showing some really good, nice lateral agility. Long speed's kind of an issue. We're only working with half a field anyway for practice. There maybe even red zone work, so that's not really what's shown on display here. But Ray Davis was a clear winner. He was a very clear winner today. And being talked about as a day two guy by a lot of guys that were leaving that place. So Ray Davis, number one RB in this group.
Yeah, I think he set a floor for himself in the 5th round. I think that's a pretty generous to the floor part of that. I think he's probably more likely a 4th rounder, and even not to be calling here, but he has potential for day 2 draft capital, right? Just a little bit. And so I think he looked good. I liked Isaiah Davis. Coming into this week in our preview show, I said he has a very high range of possible outcomes, both in the NFL and on draft day. And I think he really solidified, at least to the upper half of the class. I think he could be an early day 3 guy. And I think a team will be very happy with him. And, for a running back who's 6'2", 20, which is kind of dimensions you drop in the lab. And for a guy who moves pretty well, not like, he's not a bouncy or super flexy guy, but he's decisive and he has natural enough hands, I think, that he can be functional out of the backfield. I think, if nothing else, people who didn't have information on him now do. And I think that's important as well.
Yeah. The other running back for me that I think had the biggest rise is probably a Dylan Lobby. He's probably Ray Davis was having some one-arm grabs, sure, but Lobby was one going some deep routes and asked to do more route type stuff compared to the running back group there. I think he has solidified roles at passing back at the NFL level. As far as a runner goes, I got to see more. It's not the best environment for it, but he's a pass catcher plus for me at the next level.
Speaking of unheralded white guys, Lad McConkey probably is the clear winner of the wide receivers. I don't think there was any debate about that really.
Yeah.
He just, he showed why he was considered one of the better route runners in the class, and he was. And even when he was roughed up, he was making catches and stuff. The only question is how much production he can get at the next level in terms of fantasy value, but in terms of football player value, I think there's plenty of value there as a route running slot receiver.
Yeah, nailed it there. Day 2, obviously DB started catching on how to cover him. They just stopped giving him cushion. And then I think once again in his frame, he's kind of toast there. But it was really cool watching his footwork. Roman Wilson's the other one too for wide receivers here. He called it in early today. Didn't even show up today. So congratulations to him on that one. Just a really efficient runner. There's no wasted movement. He's just getting off the line real quick, finds his open lane, and just does that really well. And he also has good hands too. I was worried about his hands coming into the week. Probably already said this yesterday, but was worried about JJ McCarthy. I thought he was a body catcher. I wasn't really sure about JJ McCarthy's ball placement or that's what he prefers. I think I can feel pretty good saying that that's just he has good hands. He's a fine receiver. So both these guys though, like Barnabas said, slot receivers next level. So as far as fantasy goes, I don't really know, but I think they're both starting slots next level.
Yeah. Another guy that was, somewhat interesting to me at least was Ryan Flournoy from Southeast Missouri State.
Yeah, SEMO.
Yeah. So, at the very least, we didn't really have too much tape on him. And we kind of knew what he was coming into this week, right? We knew he was big-bodied, strong, over-the-middle type stuff.
Yeah.
But he had some decent boundary stuff, and I think he could be a boundary receiver at the next level. He's not really going to wow you with his route running or whatever, but he's dependable, strong hands, and, with decent measurables, I think some team will find value in him for sure. And at the very least, once again, he's on the radar now for sure, and we have solid tape on him against FBS level, high-end FBS level talent. So
yeah, the corner class is very impressive compared to the wide receiver group. Quick honorable mention for me would be Ricky Pearsall. I thought he got fouled a lot on his routes, which was kind of hard to evaluate what he's actually going to do. They're just kind of grabbing him. But still had some good routes. Even for 11v11 had some good footwork and some routes there too. So small honorable mention for Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah. Tight ends. There were only 6 of them. So there's,
we're going to pass on that.
No, I'll say Theo Johnson showed why he was probably easily the best tight end here. I think in terms of, on the national team, it was all Big Ten tight ends. And how I always say the NFL loves them some Big Ten tight ends because at the very least they can block. Right. And Theo Johnson was the class of them in terms of as a receiving threat. And so for fantasy, I think Theo Johnson is easily the best tight end here. In terms of overall value though, Brevin Spanforward and AJ Barner are both good blockers. AJ Barner emphasized how he really likes to be a blocker more than anything, which is interesting because we saw him at Indiana as one of the primary pass catchers there.
Yeah.
So, but I think Theo Johnson showed the most as a receiving threat out of the 6 guys. I think there's potential with Jared Wiley, but I didn't necessarily see anything that was super notable. But Theo Johnson was catching most things that were his way, and he's not someone that's going to create a whole bunch of horizontal separation. But he will create some vertical lanes in terms of just size, speed type athlete.
Benson and I had an issue with drops the first 2 days. Didn't see that today. Again, it was relaxed, and there actually was no 1v1s for the American roster. But other drills, though, his hands were not an issue, but overall not the best week.
Yeah.
Lineman.
My favorite is Jordan Morgan. It will always be Jordan Morgan. If the Cowboys pick him at 24, I will be ecstatic.
All the linemen are on the national team.
Yeah.
All the linemen we picked.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but they put all the good offensive linemen on the national team and all the good defensive linemen on the American team. So they'll face off against each other on Saturday, but we didn't see them face off against each other during the week.
Yeah. So when you watch, if you watch the actual Senior Bowl, ignore the skill positions and just look at the trench. Just focus on the trench play.
Are you telling me that's not how you always watch football? Because that's how I always watch football.
I mean, that's how I watch some football programs, that's for sure. But starting from the top of the list here, like just in alphabetical order, JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, he looked really good in the guard. Yeah, I know he played center there for Oregon too, but he looked good. I feel like I saw a lot of like third round tags attached to him coming into the week. I would be surprised if that's how low I see him go.
Oh, no, I was seeing some fringe day one stuff from him coming into the week, and he did nothing to lower his stock from there. He moved well. He's built like a cement truck. So, absolutely crazy in terms of just the way he's able to counter both power and speed guys on the interior, versatility between both guard spots. I mean, probably mostly right guard, but like a guard spot at least, and center as well, which is interesting. And so, moved well, was strong enough, anchored down. He was hurt today. Supposedly he pulled a hammy. Mm-hmm. It might be one of those faking an injury and not really needing to practice. Among the guys we already talked about, right? Ray Davis, I don't think is likely to play in the Senior Bowl game, actually. I think the FCS guys will, but then I wouldn't be surprised if a tight end or two sat as well. Although only 3 tight ends, they might ask all of them to play.
I think they all would, honestly. Yeah. I really do. I don't think I'm not trying to poo-poo the tight end class, but no one really was like amazing out there. So
yeah. Well, I did start with Jordan Morgan here, so I'll finish up on Jordan Morgan as well.
Sorry.
It's okay. He was asked to be a little less, let's say, enthusiastic on day one. He was really hitting live when everyone was in shorts. And I just love that kind of like all go all the time type players, especially in linemen, and showed good hands, good feet. Nothing that makes me go, oh shoot, maybe we need to go look back at his tape. I think what we saw the first time was just what we got, which was a good mover with good strength and a mean streak. He just needs to stay healthy, and he practiced all 3 days, so that's encouraging enough for me.
Yeah. Zach Frazier didn't practice, by the way, guys. He showed up partly. What, day one, that was it?
Day one, he was snapping for pre-practice warm-ups, essentially.
Yeah.
Pre-stretching. And then once he didn't even have pads on. So he was just kind of like, he was helping out a little bit. But yeah.
Talk to me about the Florida guy, because I did not watch him too much, but you liked him.
Kingsley Aguakun was interesting as well. He received a lot of coaching, but not in a negative way. And that the coaches were like, oh, you can do better than this. We know you can. I noticed that he was always the center on the first team for the national team, which is wild considering someone, even when Jackson Powers Johnson, I call him Ben for some reason. Jackson Powers Johnson was around, like they moved Jackson Powers Johnson to guard and just had Kingsley Aguakun be the main center at times as well. Strong kid. I wouldn't say he's the best mover, but at center position, how good of a mover do you really need to be? And I just noticed the coaches really depended on him. They were like, okay, you're the leader here. You're in charge. And they gave him a lot of coaching in terms of like, okay, yeah, when this happens, you need to do this. And like, it was all very clear that they expected a lot from him. So I'm going to have to go back and watch that tape some more.
Fuaga from Oregon State, surprised. I'm actually kind of surprised he played today. I'd be very surprised if he plays tomorrow for the bowl game as well. But I think he solidified his first round draft capital. He's a beast, and I've seen him lose a single rep there too. Occasionally they'd have like that tight circle, what I'm talking about. We can't really see from the outside for 1v1s. And I can't remember which edge it was. I actually want to say an edge we're talking about later. Challenged him for a 1v1, and he just pancaked him. He's just been relatively unstoppable as far as the tackle goes.
Yeah, I think the most entertaining reps were always Fuaga versus Latu because they saw each other a lot, and Morgan saw him too, I believe, at some point. The Pac-12 schedule isn't too big. Fuaga is the definition of the club bouncer. He's going to throw you out the club if you misbehave, and and then he'll jump on you on top of that. And so, we didn't really get to see a mean streak here because it's a little bit good-natured in practice and stuff. But Fuaga, very, very aggressive and physical. The only weird thing is that he only plays right tackle, but in today's league, I don't think that's a problem.
So just to recap the linemen, because it was a little bit of a deeper position group, it's Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, Kingsley
Iguakun.
Thank you. I actually don't know how to say his first name. Talise
Fuaga.
Talise Fuaga. Cool. And then Jordan Morgan.
Yeah.
Heading over to the edge class. We just mentioned it. The Layata Latu. I'm gonna do better on that one. Called it quits today. Kind of ended his practice early. I think he should. He was
there. He was there.
Yeah,
in,
but he
sweats,
did like a warm up drill, and he just called it early. Did you want to talk about him?
Yeah, I mean, technician, practically unblockable by anyone not named Fuaga. I heard some people complain that he's a little bit upright in his stance, and that's true. He's a little bit upright. I don't think it matters for him, though, because he's not someone like someone mentioned J.J. Watt was also super upright when he first came out. And yeah, sure, maybe. But at the end of the day, Layata Latu is not someone that relies on like quick get off, good speed, good leverage necessarily even. He's very much a hands technician. And so does he need that all the benefits of being in a better stance? Not necessarily, I think. And so from that aspect, I think, okay, fine. Like, I think some team will probably teach him to be in a better stance and to gain a little bit more advantage, but he showed why he's considered a technician. And, I think that he was practically unblockable by everyone except for Fuaga and maybe Morgan.
Yeah. The other edge too is going to be Austin Booker from Kansas. This is the guy that did the 1v1 against Fuaga and lost in the 1v1s. But did we talk to him? He said his best attribute was power.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was noticeable in terms of like he did a good job of squeezing the edge. I noticed a pretty decent run edge defender. He did go for more of a bull rush whenever he was in 1v1s, but more often than not, I think he actually fits better in an odd front, maybe, which is weird because in today's NFL, we see so many more even front teams. But I think he could be one of those odd front, more versatile guys who can drop into coverage at times as well.
Nice, yeah. Just two edges there. So Layata Latu. Did I get that right?
Yeah, well, close enough. Yeah.
All right, Booker Austin from
Austin
Kansas.
Booker, yeah.
Austin Booker from Kansas. Going over to the linebacker crew, this is all on the American roster, actually. The first one I talked about is James Williams, the safety kind of linebacker hybrid mix for Miami. He's got like a lot of length, and it was really noticeable doing these like running back 1v1s. All these running backs here are like 5'8.5". Like it's not a lot of taller guys. And he just easily could reach arm. Like his arm just goes in, like he distance doesn't really. It was funny seeing running backs think they have separation, and this guy's long arms just come in and be like, nope. Don't think so. So I think he's going to be a premier like coverage linebacker at the next level. It was kind of fun watching him out there.
Yeah, I mean, so it was funny because all week he's been practicing with the linebackers, which is hilarious because he's just so much larger than all of them. But imagine him being in the safety line, he'd be even larger because we loved the way, we'll talk about him later, Jalen Simpson played this week. But I think James Williams might be twice his size, right? Like it's just like huge. Yeah. And so great linebacker, but he self-identifies as a safety because when we talked to him, he said he was a safety actually at media day. So interesting there. I think he is a linebacker the next level. And I think he already has a head start on all these converted linebackers at safety anyway, like, your DeMarvin Overshones, your Marquise Bells, those types. And so, or even someone like Devin White, who transitioned from safety, or probably, I don't know if he transitioned, but he's the lighter guy as well, the light speedy guys.
Yeah.
He's kind of that same type, but already big enough. So it's already good enough.
Trevin Wallace is the other linebacker that we had here. Trevin Wallace was just a field general, just an absolute command presence on the field. We had that defense rolling pretty well. Just overall leadership was just super impressive and made the correct reads and held guys accountable, held himself accountable. He just seems like who you want to lead your defense in the future.
Yeah, and just a quick mention, Nathaniel Watson, I didn't notice too much during practice, Mississippi State linebacker, but he did show up today. And so, the a couple of these, like towards the 3/4 mark of practice, both teams were hitting a little bit, and
Yeah,
Watson showed up a little bit there as well. I'll give him that.
the Cal linebacker had a pick today too.
Who?
The Cal linebacker, Jackson Sermon.
Yeah, he's actually been quietly had a good week.
Yeah.
He was kind of disruptive, but it was unnoticeably disruptive. And so, I think the coaching staffs both liked him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to the safety class, though. This class for safety, I think, is very stacked. I mean, this was a really phenomenal class for safeties. Starting with the guy that we interviewed was Cam Kitchens. Cam Kitchens looked good in coverage, like when it was 1v1s too. Like he looked fine there. And looked good as a safety there too. I know we interviewed Katan Oladapo from Oregon State there. You want to talk about him? You're a big fan of Katan.
Yeah, well, I actually disagree. I think the safety class is very good in the mid to late areas where there's good value there, but I also have top of the draft for the safety class isn't super strong. I'd argue the corner class is much stronger from top to bottom.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I like Katan Oladapo. I think he's a very like physical type run stopping type safety. And I think that's really valuable. I mean, you can see that though in the way just when you turn on tape, you're like, oh, that's the guy making all the plays there. And he was second on the team in tackles from the strong safety position. Actually, I think he listed himself as the free safety when he drew out his plays.
He did.
Yeah. And so interesting. I think they played their safeties fairly interchangeable, so it didn't really matter. It was just kind of defining who was field side and who was sideline side, basically. But physical guy, he's not going to be your like single high type. He might be able to handle a split safety look, but really he shines in man coverage. He had no problem against any of the tight ends here. Not that like we said, these aren't necessarily the premier tight ends in this class, but he had no trouble against them whatsoever. And he was, like we said yesterday, he was selected to be the 1v1 representative at the end of practice to determine which team does push-ups. And so team leader, a guy who walked on at Oregon State, and so a lot of, grit and character and such. And so, he is kind of what you're looking for, and he has the requisite size, and I think he has pretty decent speed as well. So Katan Oladapo, I will be ranking him irrationally high during this pre-process.
Jalen Simpson, the safety from Auburn. So we had 3 safeties here. We had a lot of guys want to talk about here. Do you want to talk about him? He's a high character guy.
Yeah, Jalen Simpson was an interesting guy. He was really jawing around in practice yesterday because rightfully so. He had a really great practice, really good. He's a little bit small. You notice that when there's like run plays and such, he is kind of on the edge of that, scrum at the end of the play.
178. It's a very skinny weight.
Yeah, and he mentioned he came in even lighter. We had a really long conversation with him yesterday. And so, I think he's a good coverage player. I hope that he can bulk up a little bit to be better in run stopping. But in terms of coverage, there's very few safeties that are quite as tenacious against these tight ends as Jalen Simpson was.
Yeah. That wraps it up for the safeties, the corners. We picked all the corners from the national team. Anyway, Keon Mitchell, the corner from Toledo, was every bit of the part of a lockdown corner this week. And I think Barnabas would say this. He looked bored.
Yeah.
He looked bored out there. Roman Wilson, no big deal. He was bored. It was pretty fun to watch him. So I would have loved to see him go against Ladd. But
yeah,
he played today. And I don't really think he had to play today. And so I wonder if he's going to show up to the bowl game tomorrow. Because, again, I think this guy just loves ball, wants to play ball. But I think he might be. I think he's a first rounder.
Yeah, he definitely looked bored, but all his movements were smooth. He was physical when he needed to be, just floating a little bit when he had to. So yeah, I agree. I'm not sure he plays on Saturday, but he definitely solidified his first round status. I would not be surprised to see him even in the top 20, maybe even earlier than that.
Yeah.
So definitely up there. Max Melton, I've thought had a really good week. He's a slot corner only. He's like rail thin, but he's a lot like his brother. He's very fast, smaller guy, but is like he's like a little gnat that's buzzing around your ear in the summer, like just constantly in your face, and just like really, he was really annoying the receivers to the point where they were just like trying to like jam him just so they could get him off of him and stuff. So I really liked Max Melton a lot as well, and I really wish we had a chance to talk to him, but he was popular amongst the media as well, so for good reason.
At least he wasn't running away like Michael Pratt was. Guys, look, that wraps up our.
Did you want to go back to the defensive line?
Did I skip over them?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. We're going to the defensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer for the defensive lineman was the
Braden Fisk.
Well, Braden Fisk, but Darius Robinson is what I was going to say. He
Okay.
showed powerful hands. Jim Nagy was hyping him up the past couple of days as well. So was Dane Brugler. And that's the easy answer. So, if you really want analysis on that, you can go read Dane's stuff, I guess, because he did everything that you want out of interior linemen, and he was getting great comps, and I'm sure he has a lot of interviews today as well. Today is elective interview days where teams request follow-up interviews. We were talking to Ray Davis's dad, and he got 16 follow-up interviews, which is, as you know, half the league. So interesting. But I'm sure Darius Robinson got a whole mess of follow-up interview requests as well. And then, my favorite is Braden Fisk. He was just, we were talking about in the CTC Slack earlier this morning, first out of the tunnel for the team. He was helping the equipment managers and move dummies around. And Nikki and Alan asks me, "Oh, did he have to put his lunch pail down first?" And I said, no. He eats lunch out of his helmet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just eats nails for lunch type of just like gritty and like just gets things done type. I wish he was popular with the media as well. I wish I had chance to talk to him, because I would have asked him about how his tape looked even better at Florida State than it did at Western Michigan, where he played with another Senior Bowl guy, Marshawn Nealand here. So he's a large human being. I didn't realize how big he was. I thought he was, like 6'1". Maybe.
He's like the mountain from Game of Thrones.
He's just
massive.
Yeah, a massive human being, and just all over the place, and great hands as well. We had some thick six practice at the end of practice today, where the coaches were throwing end zone fades to the linemen and such. And Braden Fisk, probably the best one, and he was selected by the team to be the representative for their 1v1 for push-ups at the very end of practice as well. So Braden Fisk, a candidate for a thick six.
Yeah, and then Tavondre Sweat was another easy one. Looking at his 1v1s, just felt like he committed a crime going up against Limmer on that one rep.
Yeah,
that was tough to watch.
Yeah,
but Sweat's been everything that's advertised. Just absolute strength. He's huge. He's immovable. Kind of just a one-directional guy, though. He's not going to switch gaps on you, but he was everything that was advertised beforehand and more.
Absolute penetrator. And I know Mike is too humble to say this, but special teamers are people too. So I'll go with I think we agree the national team specialists were the better duo. I think we had an interesting conversation with Josh Carty, and a lot of it actually was even off camera, I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Dude was the number 1 kicker in his class, which means he's a 3-star,
and maybe the strongest chin on both rosters.
Yeah. The crimson chin.
Yeah, Johnny Absolutely. Bravo out there. Yeah.
But talking to him about soccer too, is also a high-ranking soccer recruit was on like the academy circuit. So we talked a lot. They actually interrupted our interview. They got at the end anyway. When we were talking to him, they told us he had to go.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then obviously, our punt king, I think we agreed on the title.
The punt king is
punt king.
Tory Taylor, obviously the Iowa punter. Like no one's got more experience than that guy.
Also looked bored out there. He was like, "Where do you want this ball? Okay, I'll hit it right."
The ball placements were like superb, like from range. It was amazing.
He's just like, drop a football where you want me to hit it, and I'll hit that football with my football.
Yeah, his placement was actually amazing. Absolutely. And timing his bounces too. Like it wasn't just like it hit. It was like the bounces were good too. Like it was a very refined craft for a punter.
Yeah, I was most impressed with. There was one play where it looked like he hit the punt, right? And even then, it landed exactly on where the 10-yard line met the sideline. There was no doubt about it. It was right there. Like
the hang time was not there, which was my issue. But like it still landed in the right spot. So I don't know if that was on purpose or not. But it is pretty amazing to watch him kick.
Yeah. So anyway, we had a blast. We met a lot of people down here.
We did.
Really did some networking. And so, yeah. I was really impressed, honestly. I think we thought the running back group did way better than we thought.
Absolutely.
We had hoped for a little bit better for the quarterback group, but by no means were they, are they dropping out of the draft? By no means.
As advertised.
They were about average, I should say.
The wide receiver group, I was probably a little disappointed off in the end.
And the DBs here were absolutely absurdly talented. And, I'm curious to see how many of them are going to play, because, we didn't even get to the other Auburn corners who were also had phenomenal days throughout. And
I thought the American roster was so good on defense.
I guess,
the Auburn
did we mention
guys,
Jarvis Brownlee as well? Because Jarvis Brownlee was
no, we didn't, but he was good.
Week. Yeah.
Andrew Phillips had a phenomenal second day, who I didn't see out there today, by the way.
Oh, really?
I did not see him out there today.
I wasn't paying attention to that. But
yeah. It was a really strong group.
And I'm really glad the small school guys showed out. Like even Willie Drew from Virginia State got a lot of reps. Whether or not those were positive necessarily was a separate question. But he really got a lot of reps out there, and it's important just to put tape out there, I think, for those guys. And so I overheard a bunch of interviews he was having, and they were all asking about the jump up for Division II, and he did not look lost out there by any means. He was holding his own for sure at the very least, and being competitive at best. So.
Holding on to my boy Ricky Pete, I'll let him run his routes. Yeah. Tell you what.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You can expect maybe some recap stuff from us throughout the weekend and such. But
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, excited for this draft, and stay tuned for more draft coverage from Campus to Canton. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Check out the interviews; they're coming out soon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those will be out. I'm really excited for you guys to see it. So until next time, peace.